Hello and welcome to another episode of midierror Meets, where we talk to all sorts of people who work in sound and music. On the show this time, we've got Norman Cook, Fatboy Slim, DJ Quentox, the Ox that Rocks, one of the biggest DJs in the world, one of the most prolific remixers and producers. Literally one of the reasons that I got into making electronic music is through Norman Cook's music, through Better Living Through Chemistry. You've Come a Long Way Baby, which was huge across the globe and beyond. He's just an absolute hero. You can support the podcast by donating. I do all this stuff by myself, and if you do donate, you get a shout out and you get added to the MIDI Arpeggiation Hall of Fame. So thank you very much to Jason McManus and Joseph Farty for your donations. It's very much appreciated. It really helps to just keep this thing going. But let's get on with the show, and the first thing I asked Norman was about his musical beginnings.
My early memories of music as a child are very, very strong. Both my parents loved singing and music, not professionally or anything like that. They just loved it. So there's always a lot of music around. And my first memory of the power of music was that on long car journeys, we would often sing just to break up the fights and the arguments. We'd sort of sing, and it was that because there's 5 in my family and we could all sing all right. So then when there was a little Ford Zodiac full of us singing, and we would do harmonies and stuff like that, there was this power that really struck me of when people sing together, when you make music together, something happens that really excited me and really empowered me. And it wasn't just because it stopped the arguments. It was like there was a kind of the noise that those 5 voices made became bigger than the sum of the 5 parts. And I remember just thinking, God, this is really exciting. I really like this. And constantly over my career since, there's been little moments when I feel that again. And I suppose that's probably what's kept me going for so long, is I still get that little thrill. I mean, the last time I got it, I did a friend had their 50th birthday party just before lockdown. And we got together a little pickup band because tons of our friends were all musicians. So there was various musicians and we got together and rehearsed and played like 5 songs. And just that feeling of being in a room and just playing along with someone. And like at first it sounds really rotten, and then there's that moment where it kicks in and there's this noise that, like I said, is bigger than the sum of the parts. And I've always loved that power of music.
Amazing. And what sort of songs were you listening to in the car?
Oh, we were playing, there was a lot of Carpenters, a lot of Beatles, a lot of Peter, Paul and Mary. They're really easy ones to sing. For those younger viewers who don't know Peter, Paul and Mary, they were like a kind of, they were this sanitised version of 60s protest singing.
Okay.
They're very beautiful harmonies, but they would take re-sung all Bob Dylan songs, but kind of took all the grit out of them and made them a lot more radio friendly. And yeah, they were sort of the acceptable face of folk protest songs. So I learned a lot of sort of Pete Seeger and Arlo Guthrie songs and Bob Dylan songs, but sung in a beautiful way and very, very much lending themselves to harmonies.
Nice, yeah, because there is a great power to like choral groups, isn't there? When people sing together, even when 2 or 3 people harmonise, there is like a real beauty there.
Yeah, and there's a power, but there's an emotion, and there's a feeling of there's a sort of collective feeling. Because I remember again, I was sort of inspired because we were singing songs like "Blowing in the Wind" and sort of protest songs and songs about unity and togetherness, and I was like, oh God, this really does feel like we're one person, one being, and one world.
Amazing, yeah. And I didn't realise you were one of 5 as well. That must have been quite a fun sort of upbringing.
I was the youngest of 5, which I think, if you ask psychologists, that explains a lot.
Okay.
The youngest is like the last one who gets away with murder, but feels they have to show off to make their voice heard because they're the youngest.
Completely makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, great. Well, I mean, yeah, your sort of early part of your career is very well documented. So I think in terms of talking about the House Martins and talking about your early sort of formative stuff, that's all certainly been covered. But when did you move to Brighton? When was it that you first moved to Brighton?
I can't remember what year it was. I moved to Brighton to come to Polytechnic when I was 18. You'll have to do the maths. I'm 57 now.
Okay.
I came down here to go to college, but my sister had been at university here the 2 years. She's 2 years older than me, and she'd been there. And I used to come down and stay in Brighton for weekends with my sister, and I'd kind of fallen in love with the vibe of the place. And so when it came to time to go to college, I didn't care what course I did. I just knew what city I wanted to be in.
Brilliant.
And so I came down here to go to college and just never really left.
Amazing. You got a 2-1 in...
British Studies, Combined Humanities.
There you go. So it wasn't just about the place, you managed to...
Yeah, but ironically never used it. I had a deal with myself and with my parents that I would, if I was going to go to college, then I would not be in bands. Well, because I'd been in bands with Paul Heaton, and that caused me to fail my A-levels first time round. And then, so I sort of said to myself, there's no point in going to college and then quit, doing a year and a half of it and then running off and being in a band. So coming down here, that sort of moved me away from Paul. So the band I was in with Paul kind of split up. And so I just promised myself that I would stay out of bands. But that meant I just threw myself into DJing, which stood me well in later life. But it was, but the ironic thing was that when all the time that I was at college, I worked in a record shop and part-time. And I knew that the manager of the record shop, he didn't employ graduates. Because he said basically, that people finish college and they say, right, okay, I'm going to work full time now. I train them up to do all the buying and everything like that. And after about a year, they fuck off. And so he told me that all the way through. So when the time came, I told him I failed. He trained me up to do the buying. 6 months later, I fucked off.
Oh, wow.
So sorry, Graham.
Yeah.
So ironically, the only one honest, decent job I've ever had, I actually lied and told them that I didn't have a degree. Mm-hmm. But it was, it was never supposed to be vocational. My master plan was always to be in the music business.
I love that. Yeah, I think you had that spark from early on, and also being in the House Martins, you all sort of went off to do big things. Yeah.
Apart from Huey, bless him, who really didn't want to be, he didn't enjoy the attention and the lifestyle of all that. So he went back underground. But the rest of us, we were all sort of show offs, and it was lovely. I mean, my relationship with the House Martins is that you kind of, it's like your first sexual encounter. It's like not necessarily your best, but you'll never forget it. And
very true.
So I will never forget they were my first, and we went through being on top of the pops and all those things, going through them together. So I'll never forget that. But ultimately we were all like any relationship. We were kind of pushing in different directions, and we're a lot better friends not being married to each other anymore.
You did mention a funny story about you doing the world's longest burp. Paul said that you'd done the world's longest burp.
Yeah, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and his wife.
Have you ever managed to beat that burp? Have you ever done
No, because I tried to do it because I can't remember if Paul reminded me or somebody.
It was in an article I read. Paul phoned you up and said about it, I think.
Yeah, no, he said, what was the word you used to say that you could say in one burp? That's just, it's 3 years on the road with the band, with 4 lads at that age, and, silly things go on. And
it's brilliant. That made me laugh a lot. So and you sort of there was a bit of a hip hop scene in Brighton at that time, or you.
I was trying to instill a hip hop scene. I'm not sure that you could actually call it a scene. No, it was just I really loved hip hop. I really loved it. It reminded me because when I was a kid, punk rock really influenced me, because it was like it went from you had these pop stars to look, anyone can do this, Here's a drum kit and a guitar, and now form a band. And I really liked that. And that was how I got into actually properly playing music. I wasn't that good a musician, but it was like, fuck it, let's start a band. And and hip hop had that sort of same thing, that if you weren't a DJ, you could be an MC, and if you weren't an MC, you'd be a breakdancer. If you weren't a breakdancer, you'd be a graffiti artist. And it's like everybody was getting involved in stuff rather than just. And that really turned me on, and I really liked the music, and I sort of totally bought into that whole b-boy culture thing, which is really strange, being a white middle class suburban kid, but you just buy into it. And in those days there was just a very small amount of us that were into it, and out of that there's only about 4 of us who were over 18. And the rest were all these kids, and they just loved breakdancing and graffiti, and so I just like, I don't know, I just kind of became. They used to come around and like dance in my because they all lived with their parents, so they used to come and hang out at my house and lie on the floor and do breakdancing, and it was lovely. It was really nice. Little bunch of kids. It's quite funny. Every now and then I bump into them, and of course they're all now in their 40s or whatever, and they go, "Oh yeah, do you remember those hip hop jams?" But it was just something that I enjoyed doing, and so we used to put on these sort of under 18s hip hop jams. Just to give the kids somewhere to go. And
I love that multidisciplinary thing about hip hop. Like you said, the graffiti. It's like a 3-dimensional space of, breakdancing, all of those things that came together. It was like the crew. It was way beyond just the music, wasn't it? Although the music's the driving force for it, but it was. Yes,
I mean, similarly to punk, and similarly to punk was like, anyone can be a journalist, anyone can do a fanzine, and then so there's punk, and then there was hip hop, and then there was acid house. That for me, they were the 3 great revolutions, which said, you don't have to bow down to the man to do this, and you don't have to be that talented. Just get out there and do it for yourself, and you never know, you might just shake up the whole industry. And
definitely,
and some people did very well out of it, and some people didn't, but they had a great time trying. But it was it's that independent spirit, that sort of frontier spirit of, we're not going to live by your rules. We'll do this on ourselves. That's always really turned me on.
Definitely, yeah. And years later, you did have contact with the Clash when you released "Dub Bigger to Me."
For all the wrong reasons.
But it ended up being good, right? It ended up being.
Yeah, I ended up being friends with them. It's an interesting way of meeting your heroes, is to be sued by them. It was just a misunderstanding. Those were the bad old days of sampling, where you had no idea what was legal or illegal, or what was allowed. Yeah,
you did talk about the fast changing rules of sample clearance, because it was a bit of a Wild West. It was Wild West days, wasn't it? So there was nothing set in stone about using these things to samplers to record stuff and put it in your own tracks. But I did like that you said in the article that I read that they got in touch with you and said, "Can we have some money?" And you said, "Of course you can." It seemed like quite an amicable.
Oh, we were going quite fast. It was just a bit touchy at the start.
Yeah, when did you pick up your first sampler? What was the first moment where you sampled something, played it back?
My first sampler was the Casio CS1, looked like a...
the SK1.
SK1? No. Is it SK1? It was like a plastic toy thing.
Yeah, it's got like 8 seconds of memory, 8 bits.
No. Like 1 second of memory.
Was it 1 second?
You could pretty much get a burp in it, and which of course I did. There's lots of burps and farts and playing tunes on them.
You couldn't get the full Desmond Tutu burp in that one.
No. There wasn't enough. No, it wasn't enough sampling time. Which was just a kind of toy, but I just really wanted to, get my hands. So the first one I had was S10, Roland S10. So I think you had 4 seconds, which you could have in 4 1-second chunks. So you could like a kick drum, a snare, a hi-hat and one other noise in it. Or you could get a 4-second loop. And
where did you get that? And did someone show it you? How did it come into your consciousness?
That was the first one I could afford. I mean, I was aware when I first I was making remixes, and we were using like a a bell delay where it would loop on itself, but you had to be to get it in time with the track was so difficult because there was no MIDI or anything. It would just loop within itself. So you had to get the speed of the loop the same as the track you're working with. And then you could re-trigger it off a kick drum. So you could trigger like a loop, but it was very, very rudimentary, and that it involved having a proper like bell delay. So when we were in studios, we'd do it. But when we were at home, we just had to kind of think, well, that's how long it would be. Or I used to do cassette edits where you would just do your own little edits and edit the drum beat together. Mm-hmm. And I think it was my friend Andy Boucher who had an S10, and yeah, it was just the first one I could afford, because when I first started out, there was the Fairlight, and there was what was the other one, the Sinclair emulator.
The emulator, yeah. I mean, they're all huge machines, aren't
huge
they?
machines. I mean, a Fairlight cost the price of a medium-sized house,
yeah,
and was the size of a medium-sized room as well. So, as soon as it was affordable, and then the first actual sort of professional one that had the kind of bandwidth you could really actually make a record out was S900, mm-hmm. which soon begat to an S950, and then I kind of stuck there. S950 did everything I wanted it to do, and you could get like 49 seconds of memory in it.
Wow.
Which was enough to make whole Fatboy Slim tunes came completely out of one S950. By the end, I had two. That gave me...
Yeah.
But rather than go on to the S1000 or...
why was that? Why did you... What was it about the S950?
Because I knew how it worked. I knew it inside out. And when they brought out the S1000, it had a different kind of page operating system, and I'm like, I can't be arsed. This, I know this one, and I knew everything. I knew every way the filters worked and everything. So I just stuck with this. You'll see a lot of this in my career, just being a Luddite.
I love it, man. It's so good.
If something works for you, why buy the next one? Why spend half your life reading manuals of the next thing along?
Exactly.
And I'm like that with phones and computers and.
Me too.
Oh, nice. Yes. Yeah, I was one of the last people. I thought I was the last of the people who know not to have a smartphone. I used to get Nokias from Hong Kong because they were discontinued, and they would be so old that even though they're brand new and boxed, the plastic would start chipping away because the plastic was that old. Mm. But yeah, so I've always been some call it Luddite. I call it late adopter. I like to give everything 5 or 10 years to see if it's, around to stay or whether it was a flash in the pan,
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. No, I love that you kept to that because, you must have had such an amazing flow with the S950. Like, I did have S3000, S3200, and the manuals were like that. And I do remember just getting lost in stuff when I first started playing around and just being like, wow, there's so much. So I can completely understand why you did that. There was one feature that you mentioned about the S950, which was it the reverse loop feature?
Reverse loop, yeah. That was a very big thing for me because looping the end of the sample, you can turn it into a note. But if you loop it forwards, it gets a little click on it. But I worked out the reverse loop would go to the end of the sample, come back, and then go like that. So it would normally remove, if you tinkered around with it, it would move the click. So it meant that anything within reason, any one note you played, you could turn it into a note that you could hold. And the S1000 for some reason didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so that was one major reason for not getting it. I was like, it's really complicated. It doesn't even do that. It doesn't even do the thing that I need the most.
Exactly. I always find that with the SH101 as well. The MC202, like the smaller version, that's got LFO delay on it, so you can press a key and it'll go blah, 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 blah. But the SH101 doesn't have LFO delay. I'm just like, why did they put the great feature in like the little box and not like the main one?
I know. It's almost like the people who invent technology don't really know what they're doing. It's like they just get caught up in algorithms and big ideas. But it's often like the simplest thing that people like the push button on the phone. These people going, my phone doesn't recognise me, I have to look at it to activate. It's like, well, it used to have a button, it's like an on button.
Yeah.
Or a function button, But I'm for everything in my life, as soon as I find something I really like, they discontinue it. Then I have to buy old ones, like iPod Classics,
Really?
And all those things. It's like normally by the time, I said I'm a late adopter, normally just when I get to something, they've just discontinued it. Which could be good because it means it's really cheap. It could be bad because everybody's hanging on to them and no one wants to sell them anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely like a bell curve, I think, with things going out of date, like for example, like synths and retro game consoles and things like iPods as well. There's like a sweet spot, which is like 7 or 8 years after they've been cool, when they're like dirt cheap. And then you get a few years after that, they suddenly become vintage and retro, and suddenly everyone's pulling out their sealed, boxed versions that have never been opened. I'm exactly the same, man. Yeah, I love the old stuff, and I do embrace, because it can still be used. It can still be used. It's not obsolete just because people.
Or it could still just be an interesting curio. I just realised, do you want to be the first person ever to look inside my secret cupboard?
Sure.
Which, for those of you watching in black and white, looks like a chest of drawers, but in fact it's a false cupboard. And it's completely full of redundant technology.
Oh, wow, yeah. iPhone 4.
Basically, all my old shit gets put in here because one day it'll be,
What's that?
Used as a prop in a movie. That's a Walkman.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, Walkman's,
Preset Walkman.
calculators, every phone I've ever had.
Laptops. Wow.
Because also, like hardware,
SCART. No one uses SCART anymore, do they?
No, there won't be hardware soon, so it will. I don't know. It'll just be a curio. If you've got the room, if you've got a secret cupboard like that, you can put it in. I'll just put it in there, and then 20 years later, it'll be really interesting, I reckon.
Exactly. God, yeah. People go crazy for it. Yeah, man.
I know, I told him before about my secret redundant technology cupboard. I thought you look like the sort of person who might appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm like, I volunteer in charity shops. I work in charity shops, so I'm into all the weird and wonderful things. Yeah, and also with the S950, you mentioned about, and I guess just with sampling in general, you mentioned that the breaks were sort of layered. You would try to have sort of a double layer to your break.
Well, it goes back to the Glitter Band and David Bowie records. Just had two drum kits on it. It was more in terms that we used to love sampling the breaks because nothing had that flavour and air, and I used to try and recreate it. Use really old, like a 60s snare, and use old compressors and reverbs from those days, and I think the air just sounded different in the late 60s and the 70s. And so trying to get that vintage sound, I just found impossible. So using breaks, you got that sound, but a lot of the time they didn't have the punch, they didn't have the bandwidth and the bottom end. So I found that if you use two drum kits, but then programmed them to play the same pattern, it just made it chunkier, and it just meant you got more power in breaks that had character but no oomph. You could back up and give it, so you had the oomph out of one and the character out of the other.
I love that approach, because so many people talk nowadays about layering your drum kit, but it's pretty much just that, just throw in a few hits and see what works together. Whereas you did have a bit of a
people used to, when the first time I learnt so much from I did first remix I did where we got the multi-track from America was Kid and Play, Do This My Way, and I can't remember what the producer was, but it was hearing how he constructed it, and he had a drum break, but then he had like a booming kick underneath that, and then he backed up the snare a bit, so he had an extra snare, and then he had one little just like a looped hi-hat that's really scratchy, and it's like, wow, that's how you get it to sound like that. But I just want to wait one stage further. Rather than beefing up the kick, the hat and the snare, I would just have two drum kits playing the same break, and obviously the one with more character would win out. That's one you'd think it was, but in fact it was kind of two of them. But again, it goes back to the Glitter Band, you know, that sound of two drum, or early Adam the Ants, you know, two drummers. It makes for a very powerful backbeat. It
does, doesn't it? And also as a spectacle to watch on stage when there's two drummers. There's a band called the OCs that do it, and like just the synchronicity of two people it's quite a hypnotic thing to sort of see as well as hear.
And if you're going back to me singing along to Peter, Paul and Mary with my parents, imagine those two drummers just looking at each other, just locked in and thinking how basic, when we both play exactly in the pocket together. That's the thing, it's like not two drummers playing different things, two drummers just playing exactly the same thing. They must feel that power when the two of them are really locked in.
Definitely, yeah, and like sort of a sort of intangible communication between them where they can probably, you know, communicate without actually saying, like now.
James Brown used to do it, and they always had his main drummer. So the new drummer, the newer drummer, was always trying to impress the other drummer. You know, they're always trying to kind of really kind of sort of mesh with each other. And if not, the second drummer would come and go, and there was always the main one.
Right, wow. That's so cool, man. And also the S950, we're not going to talk about S950 all day, but it was mono, right? Was it something mono? And do you think that affected the breaks, the sort of punchiness of it?
Probably. Most of the breaks that I sampled, or most of everything that I sampled, I'd always check it left and right first, because sometimes the mix would have more of the drums in the left side and the left reverb, so you got a drier sound. Mm-hmm. So I would choose, when I was sampling anything, I would choose whether I used the left side, the right side, or I monoed it. I'd always kind of compare just to see if it was... Because often, especially inside 60s records, they put the drums more on one side and they put the reverb of the drums on the other. Mm-hmm. So if you just took the right channel, you'd get a much cleaner drum sound.
Exactly, just like those classic Beatles songs where you can just listen to one side and you just get like vocals and bass line.
Yeah, they took it a little bit too far. I remember once playing one of the first clubs I played down here, playing a Beatles tune, and I didn't realise that the sound system was wired up appallingly, and you only actually got the left channel. So I put on a Beatles record, and all we had was the vocals. And I was going, what's?
I thought you were going to say it was like the karaoke version. There's no just instrumental.
I think I might have done it. Well, much better to do it that way round. Just playing the vocals and the reverb of the drums doesn't really cut it in a club.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's brilliant, man. And what were you sequencing the S950 with? What were you sequencing those
Atari STFM. Atari running Creator.
Yeah.
Again, they brought out Notator, and then everybody went to Steinberg, and then Cubase, and then Logic. And I just stayed with Creator because it did all the things I wanted it to do. Still use it now.
Do you still use it now?
Yeah.
Amazing, man. Do you have do you have backups of?
I've got about that was the Atari ST was one computer that became very, very cheap.
Yeah.
Like about £2.50. You could get them in record and tape exchange. I've got about 10 of them.
Brilliant.
Which is good because they do die from time to time.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, we got from our school like giving away the old computers, and we got like STs for like a £5 or a £10 when we were like 15 and 16. We're like, yeah, make tunes on this. It's really good MIDI on this thing.
Well, there is. I still. I mean, everything up until the last thing I did actually using that full setup was Rizzle Kicks, and they just laughed. I mean, I think that was the end of it for me because they just laughed all the way through. And then when anybody because they had a big hit with that tune, they did tons of interviews, and everyone said, "Oh, what's it like working with Norman?" And all they just said was like, "You got to see his studio, man. It's like antique." They said he's still using an Atari, and yeah, they did make me feel a little bit old fashioned, but no, it again, you get to know. It's like if you spent ages learning how to play a guitar, and it had 6 strings, and it did all the things that guitars do, and you learn to get everything out of it. And then someone invents an 8-string guitar. It's like, you know what? I'm quite happy with 6. Wouldn't know quite what to do with those other 2 strings, and I'd have to relearn how to play. And so I'll just stick with the 6 strings, which most guitarists have tended to. If I kind of wish that technology was like guitars, because most guitarists would argue that a 57 Strat sounded better than a present day one. The same can't be said for electronic instruments, apart from some of them.
Yeah, apart from
the 303.
Like the 303, yeah, which is absolutely seminal and designed to be like a play along for a guitarist.
Yeah, I've had some weird revelations. Do you know who advertised the 303 when it first came out?
What, like a company?
No, a celebrity endorsement.
I'm trying not to say Rolf Harris. I got Peter Stringfellow.
No, Oscar Peterson.
Right, who's that?
Oscar a great jazz pianist. One of the
really?
Great jazz pianists of the 50s.
Right, wow.
And he was kind of Yeah, very much old school jazz pianist, and he wasn't like Herbie Hancock where he's like, I'm exploring new things. He was like, I need it to plod along and just play the background so I can do my jazz piano. And so yeah, he was in the photos of the original 303. Saying, well, I can't afford a pickup band, I use the 606 and the 303. You imagine Oscar Peterson playing along with a really rudimentary bass sounds and a drum beat that went dum. It must exist somewhere.
I just like the idea that he just decided, I'll sod the guitar, I'm just going to get electronic machines and make some electronic some acid house or something with it.
Well, I think it's probably the idea is that, like the fact that you haven't heard of him, he was big in my house when I was growing up, that he would be just playing club gigs and he couldn't afford a band. So there's him with his lovely piano with this little 606 and 303 perched on the top and just playing. But I think that such musicians did exist in those days. You used to have... Nowadays it's gone the other way around because they'd have like chaos pads where they use themselves as their own backing band. But in those days, I remember the people who, they sit there and they just go... and they play along to a little drum machine.
You did a remix of Eric B and Rakim. Was it Paid in Full?
I Know You Got Soul.
I Know You Got Soul. Yeah, was that one of your earlier?
Yeah, it's my first ever remix.
Oh, okay.
First ever remix, and that launched the whole. Because basically, the House Martins just split up, and then it's like, what are you can do now? I'm like, I don't know. The dream is over, and but all the while I'd been in the House Martins, I've been DJing and making sort of proto cut up tunes, and all my friends who I used to DJ with, like Cold Cut and Tim Simon and people like that, they're all having hits. And I'm like, that's the music I like. I don't want to be in this, white pop group. And then one of the A&R men that I'd been working with when we were signed to Chrysalis, he knew, he was like their club A&R, and he just said, what would you do with this? You've got the rights to I Know You Got Soul. And we were thinking, this is, everybody's doing remixes nowadays, what can we do? And I was like, well, there's an a cappella on the B-side. So even if you haven't got the multi-track, you could still put it over whatever you want. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you could loop other stuff up. And I wasn't quite explaining it well enough to him. So he said, I said, shall I do a demo? I've got a little 4-track at home. And so I demoed it with using a loop of the Jacksons, I Want You Back. And played to him. He went, yeah, it's brilliant. Let's put it out. I'm like, what? I did it from Portastudio, and I didn't have a sampler, so I just did it by editing the loop of the Jacksons over and over again.
Really? Wow.
And he said, we're going. I'll put you in the studio, and we'll do it properly. And I didn't. Though I really in the House Lights, I was watching the engineer and talking to the producer more than the rest of the band. I really kind of liked studio. I was getting into studios, but I didn't feel confident enough. So they put me in with a guy called Danny D, Dancing Danny D, who was quite a hot sort of dance producer at that moment, and they put me in with him, and he kind of showed me the ropes. We did about 3 remixes together as Double Trouble, and that it was literally within a month of splitting up for the House Martins, I had this whole new career as a remixer.
Superb, man.
Which was a very happy one of a succession of happy accidents in my career.
Yeah, man. I think you make your own luck to a certain, like sometimes the universe delivers amazing things, but also, your own positivity and your own drive and your own energy, I think will bring. I
suppose it was having the balls. It was having the balls to go. Look, I'll knock something up tonight and I'll play it to you. Because, I suppose I was angling a little bit.
And you worked at the SL Beats company.
That was the studio I used to use.
Yeah. Is that? Oh, was it? Yeah, that was the studio. Right. Yeah, it's on Dyke Road.
Yeah.
Next to the Booth Museum.
Yeah.
Do you know the Booth Museum? Have you been there?
Yeah, of course. I used to work next door to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things in Brighton.
It's weird, quirky. Yeah, weird Brighton tourist attractions that nobody really goes to.
Yeah. Even the people who live here for 15 years, they go, I've never been there. What is it? Telephone booth? You go, no, it's like loads of dead animals. It's great. But yeah, what was that place like to work at, the SLB company, that studio?
It was nice. There's a guy called Kevin who ran it. who's lovely, eccentric, and yeah, it was just a kind of it was a studio. It was at the top of my road, and it wasn't like a commercial studio. It was the owner wanted to be a musician, so he built it for himself.
Wow.
And he sadly never really made it, but he let me use it. Let me rent it off him, and it was quite good because I got used to, rather than going into different studios and having to sort of work out different setups, and I would just go and work there, and I would, at one point I was probably using it 3 or 4 days a week, every week. So got to know the thing, and the engineer, the in-house engineer there has been my engineer for a quarter of a century since, Simon Thornton. Yeah. So great. I met him there, and so I worked there. I can't remember how long, probably 3 or 4 years, until technology meant that I could do stuff at home, until kind of ADATs came in, and I could afford, because I had I started with a sort of 144 Porter studio when I was in the House Martins, but then I'd gotten up to I had an 8-track reel-to-reel and a 24-channel desk at home, so I could write and do stuff, but I never felt confident enough to actually record anything there. And then one fateful night I did. One fateful night I ran out of time doing a remix, and I knew I had an idea in my head, and it was like 6 a.m, and then the next session needed to come in, so they're like, "You got to go." So I just took all the bits home and finished it, and it had to be given in the next day. So I just did it, finished it, mastered it at home, and nobody went, "This doesn't sound like it was recorded in a professional studio. It sounds like it was recorded in your bedroom." And that was the light bulb moment for me, and it just sounded better. It just sounded more gritty and less polished, and realised that that's what you're looking for a lot in music. It's not necessarily polish and perfection. It's like that vibe.
Yeah, the rawness. I definitely remember that in, or you can hear that in Better Living Through Chemistry. The sort of the rawness of it. Because that album really did change. It changed a lot for, I think, for me personally, but my group of friends, and I know a lot of people across the globe, even in the US as well. That album really just sort of landed. I think Damien Harris described it as being a compilation album.
Well, it kind of was, because by that point we'd had 7 singles. But in those days, dance music was never on album. You didn't bother releasing albums, and if you did, they just completely tanked.
Right.
And so you just put out 12-inch singles. So I think we were up to about the 7th 12-inch single, and then The Prodigy came out with their first album. Music for the Jilted Generation, which was the first album of our ilk to release an album, and it worked as an album. So all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, you got to do an album." We're like, we don't do albums. And Jamie just went, "Well, we've done 7 singles, do 3 more fillers and put them out, and that's the album." So it was, I mean, most of Better Living Through Chemistry had already been out on 12-inch. So right. It was a kind of greatest hits.
First of which was Santa Cruz 1995, which is a hell of a track. And then Everyone Needs a 303 after that, going out of my head. You did also release a thing, I think the B-side to, I could be wrong, the B-side to Rockefeller Skank had Tweaker's Delight on it, which was like the TB-303 line from Everyone Needs a 303 in a new form. That was an amazing thing to get on the back of
Well, I just making that kind of music and creative DJing, your acapellas and things like that, and bonus beats were a great tool, and I like doing that. So I used to, and of course, in those days everything had to come off vinyl for you to sort of play it out. So there was no CDs or anything like that. So you could put things. It would be nice to just delete things out. So I used to call them DJ Delights, and I did a couple of bootleggy albums called DJ's Delight, where I just loop up acapellas or things for DJs to use for mixing tools, we used to call them. Mm-hmm. And so if there was anything that I thought, I'd run things off for myself just for when I was DJing, and it's funny because lots of other people picked up on it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you always used to put acapellas on the B-side." You know, with Dubbing Good to Me, we put acapella on the B-side just so it could still be sampled today. You know, and I liked that kind of, on the one hand, sort of democratizing it by saying, well, you can all have the parts and you can all, but also you get kind of more use out of it when other people use it in different ways and do their own remixes and stuff like that. And I'd always really enjoyed it when people put things on, so I made it a point of doing that. And
Star 69 was an acapella on that one there.
That started started as I Get Deep. And is there one on?
No, there is one.
Oh, there is one. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a dual. I think I've got a dual release, a 2 vinyl single release of Star 69.
Well, no, I
remember mixing that. It was just so much fun to have that acapella to play with.
Yeah, and I remember Calvin Harris telling me that when he first started, he said, "I just used to use all your DJ delights," and that was like, he said that was how I learned how to put a track together. So there's things like that. I mean, things like that just like make my heart go boom. The idea that I was somehow involved in his. You know, because in those days it was like you would just learn little snippets off other DJs or pick up things, and there was an awful lot of crate digging and an awful lot of. There was no without any information highway. There was, you just pick up, you know, what is that weird B-side, or a cappella bootleg albums and ultimate breaks and beats and things like that. It's just like there's other people the other side of the world doing the same thing as us, and. You know, why are we doing this? And nowadays you could just chat to each other, you know, and swap ideas. But it was a lot more difficult to swap ideas, and it happened. But it was a lot more exciting when you did meet up with someone that was doing the same thing as you, or they go, "Oh yeah, I love that thing you did 3 years ago. You put that bit on."
Yeah, people like DJ Shadow as well. I think was doing similar things, going into sort of underground buildings that are just stacked full of records and digging out. I always think there's like an element of sort of detective work to it, you know, going through those samples and noting them down and all that stuff. It's quite a. What do you think? What record has sort of most sort of popped out at you when you're putting it down, looking through sort of random records? Is there any particular moment when you found a record and was like, wow? Well,
I've sort of got my copy of Take Your Praise, Camille Yarbrough, which is the Praise You sample. I've still got that with the price tag, $8.99. It's like that was the best £8.99 I ever spent. And yeah, so ones that I've sampled, because sometimes I sort of forget about it, and then 6 months later they'll be going, what is that sample? Do we have to clear it? Or somebody's phoned up and we think we need to clear this. And yeah, some of them where I've had to put a sticker on the front saying, reminding me what that's where the sample for so-and-so came from, just for historical purposes. But yeah, so I suppose, there's a copy of Tracks of the Vinyl Dogs, Volume 2, I believe, which was just a kind of a bootleg of kind of mashed up beats, but it was introduced by Lord Finesse, who said, right about now, welcome to Volume 2 of Vinyl Dogs. Right about now, you're here with no other than the funk soul brother, Lord Finesse. So here's how we do it right about now. And because that, I suppose that was one of my greater, hearing that and just going, I sort of hear a rhythm if you chop that up a bit. So, that was probably my greatest find, was that little song.
With that track as well, you mentioned that the beginning part of that track and the end part, you'd nailed it, but then you went to Simon's house to do the middle bit?
Yeah, because he had internet and I didn't. He had some program, the slowy down bit, he had some program that he'd download off the internet, but it wouldn't work on my Atari.
Right.
Because my Atari couldn't do internet and it didn't have enough power to do that thing.
Hyperprism pitch changer.
If you say so. And Simon had just found this thing and said, have a listen to this, and we were like, whoa, we got to use that. And I think it was just like the next tune we were doing happened to be Rockefeller Skank, so we were like, let's do that gag. But it involved going around to his house, recording that bit on his house, and then bringing it back on a DAT and then editing the two together, which in my mind was like everything I'd read about the recording of Bohemian Rhapsody, which is one of the greatest sort of recordings. And I remember watching a documentary or reading about how they'd done it in sections and then had to splice them up, the reel-to-reels together, and how they would... Yeah, just the recording process of that, in my mind, that was my version of that. Obviously, it's very rudimentary compared to what they were up to. But in my mind, it was my Bohemian Rhapsody. We spent so much time, we actually had to drive from one studio to another to record certain bits. But yeah, it was simply because, I didn't have internet or a computer powerful enough to run whatever that program was you just mentioned.
Yeah, and an amazing sound. I don't think anyone had done anything. There was nothing that sounded like that. The sort of loop point thing that you did then, it was...
I'll warrant, if you could track down that and put any tune about it, I think it pretty much says the same thing.
Will it really?
Yeah, that's all it does, I think. Well, it does, it just stretches it out to an infinite, reduces it into bits, which eventually... Yeah, it was, the original and grungier version. You could kind of do it when you, with CDJs. You can speed up the loop point till it goes, until it goes...
Can you?
Yeah. If you just keep doubling up the thing, eventually it goes, and then you can play it. You can play it off the deck.
Nice, man, nice. I know James Wiltshire of the Freemasons, and he spoke to me when ages ago about when they played your track in the office. Was it Dave Seaman? Was the manager of the DMC office, they just called everyone in to listen to that track, and they were just mesmerised by it. By that midsection and what you'd done and how you'd done it, Yeah.
Well, that was all down to that was Simon's little stroke of genius. I can't take the credit for that. But the only take the credit for was having to fight tooth and nail with the record company to have it on the single version. They're like, you can't have that on the radio mix. I'm like, why not? He said, because it just sounds like the record's broken. I'm like, that's why I want it on the radio, because people are going, what the hell, my radio's just going, because it's like some kind of drug, it's like sort of keto vision of your ears. And that my heart, it took longer to fight to get to leave that bit on the radio version than it did to actually record it.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's like warp speed, just craziness. And you did also talk about the video for that you didn't like, the video for the Rockefeller Skank, and that's when you saw the guy who did the Praise You video,
Spike Jones.
Yeah, that's when you saw him, and you wanted...
He actually left.
Oh, wow.
He left this in my hotel room while I was filming the Rockefeller Skank video, and thinking, Christ, this is just a whole load of cliches thrown together with no imagination or flair. What am I doing here? And then I just found this in my...
Norman, can I read it out?
Yeah.
Norman, I like your song a lot, and I saw this guy on Hollywood Boulevard dancing to it, so I made you a video. I hope you like it, Spike.
And that was a video. That was a video of Spike
amazing.
On his own dancing to Rockefeller Skank, including the slow down bit. You can imagine what he was doing to that, doing the kind of the Torrance Community Dance Project.
There's also a photo of a woman who's behind a sign that says "Microwave Miracle Steamer." And I don't know what she's doing.
And I had no idea who Spike was. It was just in my hotel room when I checked in. And I was like, who's Spike? And the record company went, I think that's Spike Jones. It's like he'd just done that Björk, It's So Quiet, big production number. Mm-hmm. And I knew, and I was like, and then I've watched a couple of his videos, like, I like your stuff. And I was knocked out that but that was great because it went from making overpriced, unimaginative videos full of cliches to making cheap videos that made people genuinely smile or upset them, or it's funny thinking back on it how much I had to fight, because that video was another one where the record company went, it's interesting, but we need to make a proper one. I'm like, what do you mean a proper one? So, well, that's kind of funny, but we need to actually make a professional proper one. I'm like, no, that's it, trust me. And
I think you were right, man, you were right with that.
And that was great, because after then it's like, let's not do let's not do these. Again, it comes back to that punk thing. It's like, what's the point of just doing it the way that everybody else has done it, just for the sake of it? And if you've got this other idea, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, cheaper or... Yeah, and it's the same with using my own studio rather than being at SL. It's just there's something that translates. And there must be generations of musicians who their demos have always sounded better than the finished thing. There's that demo-itis thing where you record something and you just go, it's not as good as the demo. It happens to all musicians. There must be people like all the way through their career who've always thought that. It's like, just put your demos out.
We'll just always tell the artist, this is the demo, by the way, we're just doing the demo here.
Yeah.
I think there was Adele who did live around here. I can't remember if it was Rolling in the Deep or one of her really big songs. It was the demo recording. Also, the Firestarter vocal was apparently recorded in a hotel room somewhere, and then they tried to do it in a studio later, and they're just like, nah.
Yeah.
The fucking hotel room, that was it. Yeah, you're right. There's something about that sort of the sort of energy that's in that stuff. Yeah, and also I guess you've talked extensively about all of your videos, and I mean they're brilliant. They're really entertaining. They sort of marry with the song really well. Like just before recording, we spoke about Your Mama, which was a fun one with people's sort of arms being pulled out of control when they listen to your song. I wanted to ask you about one that I don't know if anyone does ask you about, which is Build It Up, Tear It Down video. Where was that shot? Where was that?
That was the original Big Beat Boutique, which is the original Concorde, just by the pier, which had been our clubhouse and it was like our cavern club. It was a really dingy little venue where sort of Skint Records was born and where Fatboy Slim was born, and it spawned the term Big Beat came from that.
Really?
That club, which is I was very proud of. You know, if you think that house music was named after the Warehouse Club in Chicago, garage music's named after Paradise Garage, and Big Beat was named after the Big Beat Boutique. So it was, that was, and that had, for about 3 years we'd been doing it every fortnight, and it was just getting more and more crazy and more people coming in, and we were like, I think we're onto something here. You know, there's definitely something going, and there's this movement, and then bumped into like the Chemical Brothers and John Carr and people in London who were doing the same thing as us, and it was like it just became this thing. So that was the sort of Brighton version of that. And then just when we were really beginning to break big, they sold and they were going to redevelop the place. So the owner of it said, I want you to play the last set. And I was like, okay. And I said, can I take a piece of the club home? He said, well, the whole place is getting demolished. He said, bring tools. So we did. Really? So we did. We brought a sledgehammer and saws and various jemmies and stuff like that, and we took the whole club apart.
Brilliant, man. Was it? Am I right in thinking it was by where the Sea Life Centre is now in Brighton?
Yeah.
It's
where I think it's Burger King now. Next to the Sea Life Centre. Yeah.
I need to go down and just do like a pilgrimage, like it's Mecca.
Well, it was. Yeah, it was. So everybody got to take a bit of the dance floor and the club home with them, because we were dismantling it. There's one shot in that thing where I'm soaring. Yeah, there's a pillar in the middle, halfway across the stage. Yeah. There's a pillar, and I started soaring through it, and the bouncer's coming around, going, no. I'm like, no. Chris said I could do anything, and they go, no, that's where the power lines are. Fuck.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a seminal night, and which I can't remember. It was Tim, who was my tour manager at the time, for some reason said, we're going to try and film. Filming in clubs was incredibly difficult in those days because you didn't have low light cameras. But this guy had got some sort of Super 8 camera or something that kind of worked. He just filmed some of the carnage from that night, and it ended up with them blowing up. Then we reconvened back here, partied on a bit until dawn, and then went down to watch the power station chimney being blown up in the morning.
For the video for Build It Up, Tear It Down, it's like the perfect.
Well, I think they just had all this footage, and I think when they were cutting it, they just thought Build It Up, Tear It Down was this great thing, and it was us demolishing the club where everything had been born. Because that club, it was literally every fortnight. It was like more and more people coming, and then we were meeting more and more people. We got the Chems to come down and play, and then it became the sort of Skint Records home club, and it was where we tried out all the records and the ideas, and so it saw what other new rules we could break. And there's a lot of mayhem went on, a lot of serious mischief went on there.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I'm obviously a huge fan of the Chemical Brothers, and you collectively have been so influential, I think, to a whole generation of people, thousands of people who make music now because of you guys. And so you remixed, you did a couple of remixes for them, didn't you? You did Come With Us, 2002.
I was supposed to do Star Guitar and I just couldn't do it. I played with it for like 3 or 4 days, and then I just went back to him and I said, I can't make this any better than it is. And I can't make it anywhere near as good as it is. It is what it is. Do you mind if I don't do it?
Amazing. And what were they like to work with and play with? What was
I played with them more than I worked with them. No, when I was just starting out, I'm not sure if, I must have been Fatboy Slim by that point. But basically, Lindy Layton, who'd been the singer in Beats International, and I'd kept in touch with her, she said, you know that sort of music you play that's just like sped up trip hop or slowed down acid house, or, you know, that thing you play? And he said, there's people playing it in London. And so she took me to the Heavenly Social and introduced me to Tom and Ed and to the Big Kahuna Burger, which was another club that had the same kind of attitude. And she just took me up one weekend and introduced me to them. It's like meeting kind of your long lost brother you never knew about. It's like, and they were like, you're Fatboy Slim? I was like, yeah. And they said, oh, we love it. You know, we were playing Santa Cruz, and we sort of compared notes a bit, but then we just ended up DJing with each other pretty much every weekend, and through that we became really good friends. And then we ended up, we used to go on holiday together, and but we were, after a while, because we're both quite serious about what we do, and eventually knowing what we were like, there was a little bit of kind of professional. After a while we stopped comparing notes about what we were going to do next and things like that. There's a little bit of friendly competition. So no, they were more my sort of, by the end they were more my partying partners rather than musical partners. No, I mean, because everyone said, oh, you should do a track together. It's like, well, we do the same thing. You know, we kind of, we need to work with vocalists, not with other producers who produce the same kind of ideas. Definitely. But no, they were really supportive of me, and we were, like I said, we did so many shows together, and work more resting and playing than working together.
And going through your list of remixes is just like the who's who of remixes, if that's a thing. Obviously Body Moving, absolutely huge. That was absolutely huge. Renegade Master as well, when that came out in 1998. I'll never forget hearing that for the first time and just being wowed by it. Because it was a hit. It was a hit for a few years prior to that, wasn't it?
It was. Roger worked for Loaded and Skint, and he sadly died just when he was getting really big. He had this really kind of underground techie sound, which everybody in New York really loved, and so a lot of Loaded Records was based around Roger Wildchild, around his tunes, and just when he was becoming really big, he dropped dead one day, poor love, and for brain aneurysm, and which was horrible, obviously, for everyone. And then it must have been fairly soon after, somebody was like, "Oh, we should re-release for Renegade Master," and they got a couple of remixes done, and it's like, I remember saying, "Roger deserves better than this. Can I have a go at it?" And I think he'd had quite a sizable hit with it in the first place, and it is a great tune. It's just absolutely one of those when you listen to the original that the vocal comes from, it's just a genius moment of him hearing that little rhythm and what they said and chopping 4 bits of it together to make another part. So
definitely
that was a bit of a labour of love for me, just to preserve Roger's memory in the best fashion possible.
Incredible, really incredible track. Obviously, Groove Armada, Corner Shop, absolutely massive. You've probably spoken about them a million times already. Underworld King of Snake as well. That was a killer remix. I always loved that one, man.
Yeah. Again, that's another one because Darren become very good friends of mine and still is to this day. It's weird doing remixes for your friends because it's like you really just want it to be so good and you want to try and impress them, but also you want it, you know. Yeah, it was it was really weird track in the first place, and it was kind of, I think I went quite hard on that one, didn't I?
Yeah, it's just got the vocal going snake, 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 and then it all hits the ground, man. It's a really killer. I remember buying that single and flipping it over and going, "Oh my god, there's a Fatboy Slim remix of it."
Well, it was. I mean, that was a real purple period for me. That it was a sort of a 3-year period where I was just on a roll, and you know everything. I just had so many ideas, and they were all kind of working. It's like, how far can we push this? How can I do this? It's like, oh, can I do this? And that was it. But during that time, what was really lovely was I was working a lot there because there was a kind of limited gene pool of a certain style of DJ. We'd always end up doing the same shows every weekend, so I got to party with them, got to know them really well. And yeah, Tom and Ed became really good friends of mine, and Darren Emerson became a particularly good friend of mine at that time. And it was quite weird when you're hanging out with these people, and you know we'd all be hanging out here, and you know people are just like, it's a who's who, you know, and we'd just be going, what's your new channel? It's like, oh, I'll just play your own tune, and you're just like, fuck it, I don't care. And it's like, oh, and what's it on my tune? Whoa. So and there were who else was I remember there was one summer when Tim Deluxe joined the fold, and he was hanging out with some parties, and then he just won't do, and it was just like every song on the radio was mates of mine.
Yeah,
and it felt really good because it felt like we were all kind of bouncing off each other, but not so much actually collaborating with each other, apart from the odd remix.
Yeah, I guess maybe just spurring each other on, and you know, everyone raises the bar, everyone keeps raising the bar, like Orbital.
I thought you said raiding the bar.
Raiding the bar. Well, yeah, probably a bit of both. Like Orbital, Left Field at that time, Underworld, Crystal Method.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that when there's a scene of people who are doing something that nobody else is doing, you stick together, and it's like, I mean, it used to be like that with DJs. You used to, you know, you'd be at an airport and you see somebody else's record box with the stickers all over it, and you just go straight over and try and work out who they were from the stickers. But you'd always start talking to each other. Like, because you'd be the two DJs, the ones who lived this sort of outside normal hours and outside normal life and everything. And the DJs would stick together. And nowadays, the DJs are kind of everywhere. And you wouldn't talk to them. You'd look at them and just go, oh, well, you know, don't know them, probably don't want to talk to them. But in the old days, you would talk to every DJ you bumped into an airport. You'd be comparing notes, because we were there was a community. We were sort of a minority.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling. Like I said, you know, the idea that the original Big Beat Boutique was like our clubhouse, and it was like other people, you know, every new signing on to Skint would come and play there, and we'd just get the measure of them, and then other people from slightly different scenes. Like we got Aphrodite came down and played. We used to play sort of jump up records, and then he remixed Rockefeller Skank, and then so he was like in the fold, and Mick Jones came down and DJ'd, and you know, and then Corner Shop came and played after Brimful of Asher, and it was just like, you know, me and Damien and our mates.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I think Corner Shop released a new album.
Yeah,
that was really, really good.
I really like it. Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for what they do.
Yeah, but yeah, all killer remixes. Also, like that Mike and Charlie I Get Live remix.
I completely forgot about that. And then Dan Eats Everything sent me a re-edit of it. I'm like, fucking hell, this is good. But then I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that was... I mean, that point, in, like I said, it was a bit of a purple period, but also it was quite a frantic kind of period in my life when I was just like running around 24/7, partying and making tunes, not much sleeping going on, not a lot of eating. And hence some bits of it are all a little bit of a blur. But yeah, I'd actually forgotten about the Mike and Charlie tune, and was pleasantly surprised when I listened to it back. I was like, oh,
It's a banger, yeah.
Well, you can see what I was getting with that one. Again, it was like hearing a rhythm in what they said. They just said something about dropping bombs. Bombs, Brighton bombs, and it sounded like Brighton bombs.
Oh right,
no, it was just writing bombs. But if you looped it, it went Brighton bombs, and having lived through the Brighton bomb, that made and Brighton bombs.
Oh, the Labour.
Yeah,
right. That's amazing, man. I love those little insights.
It's funny to listen to it years ago and go, oh, I see what I was getting at. I don't actually remember doing it, but yeah, I can see where you're going with that one.
I can see where you go. This is going to be interesting. Watch this guy. That's amazing, man. That's really, really good. Yeah, you did sort of talk about a musical collage of your music, sort of throwing together parts that become greater than they become greater than the sum.
I suppose, yeah, that goes back to those car journeys. When you take a whole load of samples from hugely different areas and then blend them together in a way that they actually sound like a record or like a band. I thought it was really funny when I went to America and on the back of Rockefeller Skank, that sort of really, and people would just go expecting it to be a band. It's like, when did that ever sound like a band? And I'm like, I suppose it kind of does sound like a sort of twisted band. And so, yeah, it's the same thing when you take a load of little samples and chunks and loops off records and put them all together, and then at one point, all of a sudden, it sounds like a new record that is bigger than the sum of the parts. Yeah, never thought of that. It's kind of the same.
Yeah, but you had an amazing talent for doing that, for finding things that work together.
Yeah, there's a journalist called Chris Heath who used to edit smash hits, and I've known for years, and he's a really good journalist. He's very insightful. And I hadn't seen him for years. I bumped into him in an airport, and he said, "Oh, you know, how you doing?" We were just chatting, and I said, "Oh, well, still." And I said, "I'm still getting away with that." I said, "But still, jack of all trades and master of none." And he said, I was thinking about your career. He said, what you are is a shepherd of moments. And I was like, that's just poetry right there. It's just like nailed everything that I'd want to be. Yeah, rather than a great musician or a great artist or a great DJ, just a shepherd of moments. You just take little bits and shepherd them together into a thing, be it a meme. I realised the other day, because memes now mean something different, but like so much of what I do is just a slogan, basically. Turn on, tune in, cop out, happy hour. They're all just sort of cliches or things that, eat, sleep, rave, repeat, right here, right now. They don't mean anything, but they just sound good as a meme.
Yeah.
And they can mean different things to different people if you get a really good one. And so that's kind of what I deal in. And it's just taking bits from here and there and shepherding into a thing, and when you're DJing, that's the same thing you're doing. You're taking everybody's experience of them want to come together on a Friday night and escape their boring lives or get high or get laid or whatever they want to do. It's just shepherding them all into a big pile and hopefully getting that collective euphoria and that collective musical experience. So yeah, I mean that's if there was ever to be a book about me, I would like it to be called Shepherd of Moments.
Shepherd of Moments.
That's how I'd like to be remembered. It would look good on a gravestone, wouldn't it?
That's a great analogy.
A Shepherd of Moments.
Shepherd of Moments. Spike Milligan's was the best, though, wasn't it?
I told you I was ill.
I told you I was ill. I don't think anybody could top that. Are you okay to keep
Kim
talking
Jong,
for a little while?
apart from Kim Jong-un's father.
What did he get?
I told you I was ill. He was called Kim Jong.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
That was my ex-wife's greatest ever joke. She had it. I bet it's just, I told you I was ill.
The House of Love was a place that's sort of synonymous with yourself. Supposedly with disco lights in the toilet and AstroTurf on the floor.
Yeah.
I've read. Yeah. What was the House of Love?
It was my house. I can't remember who coined the term the House of Love. It was my house. It was like if the boutique was our clubhouse, it was our after hours bar. So basically everyone would just pile back to my house after wherever we'd been DJing and just have a carry on. And those carry-ons could go on for days. And interesting, strange things happened during those days.
Magical things.
And yeah, and it had the downstairs was a basement that none of my neighbours could hear, so we could just go up. We could do whatever we wanted there for as long as we wanted. And again, it was kind of invariably whoever had been DJing at the boutique would end up back there, and it was kind of a meeting of the minds, but it's more a melting of the minds as well. So not much really was decided, or not many huge revelations about music or the world really came back. But an awful lot of excellent shit was talked. And it was just, and then sort of various other people came and went living there. But it was a really beautiful place because some crazy shit went on, but nothing bad ever happened. No one ever got sick or robbed anyone, or we never got busted, or
Maybe it was like a sacred.
It was we were just lucked out. But it was great because my studio was in there, so the lines between the idea of getting up and going to the studio, a lot of the greatest tunes were made when I sort of just woke up after 3 hours sleep, still a little bit wired, and it's like, oh, I don't know what should I do? I'll just work on a tune. So. And then occasionally some of the 303 passes were done in, with a few people sitting around on the floor, and we'd kind of do it, and then that would be definitely the Tweaker's Delight, the Everybody Needs a Thrill. That was definitely done in the middle of the night. With about 5 of us sitting there just seeing how fun. They said I was making all the guitar solo faces. I was like. So it was just crazy. I was crazily bachelor pad.
Whereabouts is it in? Is it in
It's
Brighton?
in Preston Park.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's another
just by Preston
pilgrimage
Park.
site.
Yeah, my brother-in-law lives there now, so don't go and bother him.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not going. I just want to see these places. Like, it was such a big break.
It's a really uninteresting looking Victorian end of terrace.
Mm.
It looked like nothing from the outside. That's the whole point. It looked like nothing from the outside, but gradually, and because when I was sort of doing a bit, it's like I had a stupid idea, the toilet was an infinity mirror.
Oh, nice.
So it's not a big toilet, it's just like a toilet and a sink. So we put mirrors on all 4 walls and the ceiling, and then set little strip lights in them. So when you're on the toilet, you just looked, and there was like a million U's going off in any direction.
I love those things. You go to like a science museum and they've got one of those, and you're like, yeah, this is fucking great. Or some lifts are like it, aren't they?
Yeah,
that's so cool. The people just stay in the toilet for hours. Just like
some people got stuck in there. It's quite disorientating if you're chemically altered.
Get a little bit introverted.
Well, some people just go, well, how do I get out?
Yeah, it sounds legendary, that place. It really does. I honestly didn't know that the Big Beat was named after somewhere over there. So I really do have to go and that will be.
It's weird because for a while nobody knew what to call it. The Chems put out a compilation called Hip House and Tripno, and then what was it? Tripno, like hip hop mixed with techno. Amel House, no, that was it.
Right.
Brit-hop, Amel House, Tripno, and no one could really kind of turn for what it was that we did. It was that kind of speeded up break beats, slowed down acid house. And then someone, I don't know who first coined it, but it was named after Big Beat Routine.
Excellent.
Which I'll be proud of to the day I die. I mean, obviously I'll be proud if Big Beat had a better reputation these days. I'm going to say, oh, that was us.
I think the world needs breaks. The vibes that you had at those break nights. There was something about breaks that really just had such great energy. It was good for girls, for boys. There was never any ag. It was never shady or shadowy. It was always fun. I think the world needs breaks. I really do. I just think that if young people had access to hearing it and what it does and like the vibes that it creates, then there's still time.
Yes, so well, and the breaks always come around. They're like Hawaiian shirts. You stick with them, and they'll come around again.
One thing I wanted to ask you, like always when I'm just preparing interviews, I sort of, something comes into my head that's an idea that might just be a way out stupid thing, but Spinal Tap, you know the film, we must know Spinal Tap, obviously. Like, I'm a huge fan of Spinal Tap. Why hasn't there been like an electronic Spinal Tap? Like,
many have tried.
Yeah,
many have tried. I've been personally asked 3 times, do you want to be involved in, we're making a kind of DJ version of Spinal Tap, and you want to be musical director, or do you want to do a cameo? They just never get made. They get talked about, and I think the subject matter isn't quite as entertaining as it is for the whole. You've got the whole rock's rich tapestry laid out, and you can plunder the most entertaining bits. But basically, the DJ world is just a load of drugs and shit being talked about. Airports, DJs at airports feeling really grisly because they haven't been to bed. It doesn't really make for such great stories. There's been a few films that were supposed to be it, but they either veer off in a different direction, or because there's that Dennis Pennis one, set in Ibiza, and then there was
It's All Gone Pete Tong.
Yeah. And there's What Would Diplo Do? Diplo did one, but everyone's trying to do it. But basically, a lot of the DJs just don't want to have the piss taken out of themselves. They haven't got a kind of sense, and also most of it is just not very funny to people outside.
I just think there's so many rules, and I mean to music production, the music production world. There's so many like silly little in jokes and things that I just thought. I think it's ripe for it. It'd just be such a funny thing.
I like to think that I've been living my life in the DJ version of Spinal Tap. There's so many times you alluded to the Hello Cleveland moment, Can I leave you with a little nugget that I've just noticed?
Sure,
again, because you happen to be sitting here.
Okay,
and
yeah,
you
sure.
seem to have an eye for this, which I've just found on the internet. Mm-hmm. It's a replica, not the exact pair, but the replica of the boxer shorts that launched 1,000 album titles.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I bought a pair of those shorts in a thrift store in Seattle for my girlfriend.
Oh wow.
And she used to love wearing them, and we had no idea what "You've Come a Long Way, Baby" meant, but we just thought we really, really liked it. And they were given away for free with a packet of cigarettes.
No way. With cigarettes?
Yep.
That's amazing. Wow, it's even got like the content of the cigarettes on the back there. That's mad. So this, the second album title came from here.
These boxer shorts, yeah. Amazing. Not really a good feature for a podcast. It's mainly a visual gag.
It's a good visual gag though. They are in mint condition. That looks like it's brand new.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wish. Sadly, I don't think my girlfriend probably kept them. When she has got them somewhere, just like, oh Christ, because we split up around the time that album was coming out. So she probably burnt them in a fit of pique one day.
Could have done, especially when the album was named that.
Yeah, she could have.
Or a souvenir. Maybe she has them
or maybe she's kept them. I don't know. I did bump into her a couple of years ago when we had dinner, and she did allude to it. I said, so I didn't see her for many, many years, and I just said, how was it? Because like just as we split up, I got really, really big, and then when I met Zoe, then I was all over the newspaper, and I said, was that a little bit annoying? She said, well, how do you think when you split up someone you really hate them and then you're there everywhere? She said, I left the country again. Wow. She moved abroad for 6 months to get away from me because, I do it. Sorry, Bella.
That's incredible, man.
I do apologise.
That's incredible. Great. Well, thank you very much for speaking to me today.
That's all right. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a nice little trip down. It's nice to think of different memories that like I said, I didn't try not to trot out stories that I've told a million times. And luckily you didn't ask the questions that I've been...
Yeah, I'm really conscious of doing that. And I find out that just basically reading all the interviews you've done and watching all the interviews you've done is a really good way to know, is to just see what you've been asked and so I try and I understand that you've been...
See, other people, they do that. They do the research, probably not as extensive as yours. They do the research and then they pick out the questions that got the most interesting answers and ask me again. But if people do that, you tend to get asked the same one. I had a really funny moment in the cafe the other day with this kid with his mum, and his mum went, my son really wanted, like, he's a bit shy, but he really wanted to say hello and ask you a question. I was like, yeah, fine. I was like, come on. He said, where'd you get the name Fatboy Slim? Which is the question.
I know what you would say for that.
And I've told so many different lies over the years, and I could never tell anyone the truth. And it was, and I just said, I said it's called an oxymoron. It's a word that can't exist. Like, you can't be fat and slim at the same time. And he just made me laugh. And he went, all right. I went, what's your name? And he went, Dexter. I went, that's a cool name. Where'd you get that name from? And he went, psycho killer. Serial killer. He's about 10. He looked at his mum and went, serial killer.
Serial killer.
But a hot
Live up
fictional
to your
series. But yeah, no, hot serial killer, but serial killer nonetheless.
Good to be named after one. Great, thanks very much.
Cool, no worries.
Really appreciate that.
Wow, still can't quite believe that I sat down with Norman Cook and spoke about his career. What an absolute pleasure, what an honour it was to be invited to his house, even to look at some of the stuff and to sit down with him. He's really had a huge influence on my life and the trajectory of so many people's lives. Party animals, producers, everyone loves him. He's an absolute legend. Love that guy. Thank you so much, Norman. Okay, yes, next time we're speaking to an amazingly talented female producer from London. She works with lots of 3D worlds. She generates 3D worlds in Unity for her live performances. She's a really interesting character. Can't wait to get that one out there. Please donate to the podcast if you can. It's very much appreciated. You will get a shout out and you will join the MIDI Arpeggiation Hall of Fame. But that's it for episode 38 and a life-changing interview for me personally. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate all of the support and I'll see you again soon.